Greetings and welcome to my dear Libra. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. Tarot of the Twin Sun is a functional division within the Order of the Twin Sun. Please take only what you will. Welcome. This is for the gateway of the 7th house. Okay. The month of November 2022. We shall be doing a channeled reading for the energy of Libra. And welcome back to the supporters of the channel. If you're new, the Great Mirrors and 9 cards spread known to draw up energies of essentially Libra, and the opposite, 7th house from Libra, is usually indicative of Aryan energy. Okay. And with this, the mystery of the yod points towards the 12th and the 2nd houses that culminate from Aries to the surrounding houses, which is from Pisces to Aries to Taurus. Okay, and this usually indicates the change that revolves around a new path that others often open up for the energy of Libra. Okay. It has to do with the attainment of something spiritual by taking a leap of faith into the unknown, okay, through the Fool's energy, tempered by essentially Neptune and Venus, okay, Mars, Neptune, and Venus. So we'll go ahead and pull up 9 cards, and usually the 9 cards are reflective in nature. They show karmic energies between Libra as well as through the opposite. Something of significance, of importance when it comes to solar reflection. This also can be a reading for not only the sun, the solar energy, but also for the ascendant as well, lunar reading as well. Okay. So what I like to do is usually use the bicycle deck and begin with a bit of a karmic resonance for the month of November. This year is already gone. I can't believe how fast it's gone through. I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone, but there certainly is an accelerated sort of projection into the future. Very fast. Okay, so it may feel like there's a change, something that you've been working on for some time now when it comes to the general karmic resonance of what Libra's all about. There's something that you have set into root. Okay, this has to do with the root and the core of your earth, of your grounding, of your footing, where you've placed your time and space, where you've certainly placed a lot of work into something. Okay, and the idea here is to take that root and understand how it's supporting you, how it's sort of the core, the foundation, what has been nurtured in deep within the earth, what has been growing deep within the foundation of your existence. May feel like it hasn't really come up with fruition of any sort, because the 8s are surrounding the 7. That has to do with deep transformation. 8 has to do with the infinity as well as transformation in terms of this root. Okay, the thing is that the root will always be the root. It will forever be sustained. There's something about you would have to dig really hard and deep in order to sort of get rid of the root, and it's not that you would have to do that. It's more like you've invested so much time and energy and effort, a lot of dedication into something, and this could be over years, uh, maybe even over lifetimes, and it feels like this root has a hold on you. But it is the source of essentially anything that would be flowering in your life, okay? And these flowers that come out, the leaves, the sort of the rest of the plant, the rest of creation, is coming about in such a way that it would take time for it to take to for you to see true fruition. Okay, what I'm trying to say here essentially is that there is a choice to be made about how you handle this. Okay, how you treat this. One is in the past, one is in the future. It may feel like you haven't found in the past and a way of seeing this, that there's no way to see how your commitments, how your work, how your root has been inherited in such a way where it's been given to you, but you didn't really ask for it, you didn't really want it. It just was the thing to do. And there's a way to balance out essentially two possible realities, one in the past, one in the future, and then come to root with that, come to understand how things have essentially been foundationally set out. Okay. This has to do with the energy of Saturn and Mercury. Primarily when it comes to this earth element, Capricorn and Virgo are strong here. Virgo sits at the pinnacle, the plateau of this root, and essentially is governing left and right as well as past and future. And essentially, what is coming to mind here is essentially a way to break free from a way of thought that has to do with essentially feeling like you're not empowered, feeling like you don't have uh, the instinct, okay, the natural, the basic instinct that has to do with this root, what you've been given in terms of any sort of animalistic behaviors or automatic responses, reactionary things that have to do with the negotiation of your natural world, about your projects, about your commitments, how the very nature of time is here in question. The idea here is to foster a sense that you have been intuitively and basically led to this. There's a strong survival instinct, okay? The takeaway here is that there's a strong survival instinct that has to do with your karma, okay? That has to do with the actions and the way you do things. That is linked essentially to the idea of dharma, okay? Which is essentially right doing, the right way of doing things, the right way of acting, right action. That has to do with the negotiation of what you've been given, what you've been working on. Even if you haven't been working on something, there's in essence something that is tied to the deliberation of the mind between different ways of thinking about the past or the future, where you are now, and essentially coming into root with all of that, okay? Underscoring all of this is the progression towards the Nine of Rods, okay? This has to do with the experiential. This has to do with the way you have been battle-born or have gone through the battles of life when it comes to especially feelings of lack, okay? Feelings of lack, feelings of powerlessness, or blocks in the mind. There is a way to find liberation here. I see a movement towards liberation when it comes to the flowering of this root and how each flower has at least two petals, at least, and beyond. And there's a sort of like blooming, okay, that I really, really like about this reading. This has to do essentially with coming up with empowerment, okay? Primarily empowerment against all odds, and essentially living with the difficulties of what desires have been brought about, okay? How desires have been motivating Libra's energy to manifest something, and it feels like there's disorder, there's chaos, there's Taurus and Uranus, Uranus and Taurus energy, a lot of destabilization. But there's a way to actually break free from all this in a very visionary way, in a way that cuts through the veil, and then also any blocks that has to do with the psychological operations of the mind, okay, operations of also truth and the way we communicate. There's a way to break free from a way of thinking, I see here, when it comes to your root, your core, your family, your inheritance, okay, your commitments, time, the nature of time, and how things move in terms of the timeline. Now, let's move into the primary reading, which is the Great Mirror. Timestamp about 10, 15 seconds, 10 minutes, 15 seconds. And I'll be using the Grand Attila Tarot deck from 1890. It's a very old deck. This is the Lucky 77, or the Dark Pathless deck. Thank you for tuning in and for your likes, your subscribes. My channel has been, interestingly enough, algorithmically designed to not let any more people in above 1,200 followers. So it's a interesting sort of niche that we have here with the twin sun. So I'm glad you guys are in support of that. I do thank you very much from the bottom of my soul, my core. So, bottom of the deck, we have the Femme Brune, which is the Queen of Pentacles, number 65 in the deck. With this image, there is a poise. As you can see, the Queen is not centered within the frame. She is foundationally rooted. She's very much rooted, flat-footed even. But with that stance, she's actually getting off the throne. She's about to do something. As you can see, her left hand is on her left knee, and this is indicative of Saturn's energy. Okay, Capricorn strong here, as well as Taurus, the possession of the right hand around the pentacle, with the X, which is indicative of the 10. So with this, she's moving forward. There's also the veil, or the cape, the sort of fabric here that is red and orange. This has to do with sacrifice as well. Sacrifice of a position in order to gain some sort of vision. If you can see closely, her eyes are very much fixed onto something. She's not very happy, but she is determined. And there is a border of gray clouds or something of that as well. She's on a chessboard. She's on a checker pattern, floor pattern. With the Femme Brune, there's a Femme Blanc, there's a Femme Brune. And with those two, black and blonde, there's a polarity, and usually within the material realm, okay, that is through the triplicity of Earth. What is highlighted is Artha. The Buddhist Artha is Artha, which is essentially the materialistic aspect of existence. Okay, it's what grounds us. It's also what ties us to anything that's prelapsarian. That has to do with the man before the fall, but then also rooted in some form of realism, reality. Okay, so this goes on with the theme of the the 7 of Pentacles from the karmic reading that we just did, and the 7 of Pentacles was in reverse, meaning that there's some sort of burgeoning happening. So this queen is essentially going to find the 8 of Pentacles, moving towards the mercurial earth energy, okay? And what that indicates is essentially there is a message that is coming between the sun and earth that is represented through the flambeau. And with this, Mercury acts as a conduit for this message. It delivers the message. It delivers some sort of solar message for this. Okay, it doesn't surprise me that judgment comes up here for Libra. Okay, now the 9 card spread is out. We have judgment. We have prosperity for rods in reverse. We have in between the Fool in the reverse. That's the 7th house of Libra. Judgment is usually indicative of an elevation from the 10th to the 11th houses, for one thing. It's Saturn's energy, a calling, a right, a way of doing things when it comes to purpose, or the reanimation of something beneath the earth into ascension, into essentially clear mind and clear judgment when it comes to the 11th house. From the 10th to 11th, Saturn is the core ruler, but then Aquarius in the 11th, it brings forward Uranus's energy. Okay, and I really enjoy the sun's energy also behind that. Okay, so a message is being heralded through Mercury's energy about something to this person, something about the prosperity of this person, something about a collaboration with someone or something that has to do with the 4 of rods in reverse. Okay, what this is culminating to is the 5 of rods. Okay, because as you can see here, the Fool is has a rod. It's in reverse. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit, because I'm not sure if you can see all those cards. So, so with the 4 of rods in the reverse, this usually indicates a passage that was supposed to be taken. Okay, a sense of victory, a sense of camaraderie, a sense of right doing in some sort of way. This has to do with the path of the triplicity of fire. Okay, which is the dharmic path. And with the 5th rod here in the Fool of the path not taken, essentially there is something about the collapse. Okay, with the 5 of rods, there's a collapse, folding of energy. There's a lot of tension in this energy, and then there's an expansion of it, and then some sort of reconstruction, reanimation. Okay, so that's the theme. Conscious thing that's going on is the reanimation of something when it comes to a promise or a project or something like that in the month of November. Okay, this is very auspicious because it's the right thing to do. It's also indicative of a turning page when it comes to Aquarian energy. Okay, when it comes to the evolution of where we're all going on a collective level, at least for my viewers, for those that are around the twin sun. There is a sort of movement towards this clear calling, clear judgment when it comes to the path of the Fool that comes through prosperity of some sort. There's a foundation here that has to do with an old project or an old commitment, someone from the past, that essentially there will be some sort of calling, some sort of right doing. And this is something to be thoughtful of. Okay, in terms of praise, you may receive it. I don't know if you want it, but it is coming. And there is a sense for Libra to embody a voice or to do something in terms of Mercury's energy, not only embodying a voice, but then also being able to control how to convey certain things in terms of gestures of what your willpower is. This also has to do with the right state of mind. Okay, coming into a vibration. Okay, that is within harmony, in harmonic with this 5 of rods energy. Okay, the interesting thing is that this is a path not taken, and there's a loss of faith between the two, but then you are embodying this harbinger, this herald. Okay, and you are essentially bringing forward a sense of purpose, almost like a mission. Okay, and you are a catalyst for this. It's like you're being reanimated in some sort of way. This has to do with the root coming out of the earth, okay? The root coming out of the earth, as seen here. The root coming out of the earth with this virgin coming out of the ground and being reanimated and ascending. So that's all good. That's on the conscious level. This first here is this first row rather is the conscious level. Now we're going to the subconscious, which is interesting because the Five of Rods does show up here. There is a process, as some people say. I can't really distinguish between process or process, but I've always said process, but I understand process, but it just those words really sort of confound me in terms of pronunciation. But there's essentially here the Five of Rods, but then it's in reverse, which is exactly indicative of what I've been talking about here. So what this means is essentially preventing. There's a prevention here. Whoever you're dealing with, they're preventing something to fall apart. Okay. There's a lot that has to do with tension within them, tension within what they do, in order to bring forward a sense of prosperity and success in some sort of way. This has to do with not letting the structure fall. This has to do with foundations, okay? Because if you superimpose the cross within the square, then you have four squares. There's very much a strong symbolism when it comes to the division of something. You could be dealing with four parts of something in terms of collaborations. It could also do with foundations of finance and success, business operations, dealings, fair trade, fair agreements, and all of that. I do see a lot of prosperity when it comes to this, but this is something from the past. This has to do with something that was going to collapse, but then never really did. There's a lot of gray area around it, okay? What is coming to an understanding here is a tethering. The vision that the Queen of Swords has here is very much quite clear. It's very interesting because the Queen of Pentacles was here, and they're very similar. Very similar. The main difference is that the crown on the Queen of Pentacles has three thorns as opposed to four on the Queen of Swords. And she also has armor on. She's ready for war. Her throne is not really existent. There's no throne for the Queen of Swords. And she's more wrapped around this sacrificial garment, wrapped around her knees in particular. The sword is up, but then it's not really being wielded in such a way to do any damage. It's more of an intellectual pursuit. There's something about communication going on here that's clearly going on here. Communication about, from your side especially, the thread or the bond that brings you two together. Okay. This person is still going through the process of realizing that it is not collapsed. Usually the Five of Rods has to do with tension. Okay, there's a release of tension that I'm feeling from their side. And this is allowing for judgment and union, the card of the Lovers as well as the card of Judgment to come through. So Venus, Mercury, Saturn, very strong here, and Uranus. There's an ability to at least have on a visionary stance an intellectual capacity to communicate with this other party, okay, who is now coming to the gross realization of maybe that they should have, took the step towards you in order to do something, in order to understand the call that you have here. It's a matter of call and response, is what I'm seeing. But there is this detached sort of union, okay. The Lovers, okay, so the Lovers usually has to do with two people reaching out and eventually sort of being harmonized by the Hierophant, okay? With the victory arch behind, there's a lot of ritual, the columns, the garlands. There's a ritual behind union or marriage, okay, commitment. But the commitment is not being had here. It has to do with a commitment that's higher than that, that's transcendental. It has to do with the word union, essentially, which is beyond mere commitment, beyond mere human interaction. It has to do more with something spiritual in nature. There's a lot of spiritual quality here. A lack of faith on one end, a feeling that it's all going to collapse, but then now, in the month of November, it's all coming into some sort of higher purpose, higher calling, Aquarian energy here. Okay, with the Queen of Swords looking on into the vision, seeing the cross that breaks the square into four even pieces, breaks the foundation into four equal parts. Okay, very, very good reading in terms of that. But because it's in the subconscious realm, the magical realm, there's a lot that's going on in terms of essentially the process of coming up with a vision to bring people together. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And the interesting thing is that you can intellectualize this process. There's something about it where you can detach from it and observe the subconscious operations of the mind or the collective consciousness. Okay. And essentially observe and become privy to some of the more relevant truths that has to do with this failure to collapse. Okay. This it's kind of like moving towards the 6 of rods, but then also moving back to the 4 of rods, okay? And when we're talking about the 4 and the 6 of rods, it has to do with foundations, but then also something more where it's like the foundations on which you walk, the path on which you walk is being described here, okay? Because of all that, when it comes to rods, it has to do with Dharma. This person is very much focused on the sense that they have to do the right thing. It could be even a group of people that you're dealing with, that they have to do the right thing, maybe even your friends, your friend circle, anyone who you're collaborating with in terms of business, could be even a soulmate. When it comes to this, there's a release of tension of all of that. At the same time, there's a culmination from the conscious to subconscious mind of the 9 of rods in reverse. Okay, 9 of rods came up earlier for the pre-read, and essentially what it was pointing to is experience. Okay, so there is an experience of a lack of experience, okay? But that in itself is still an experience. If you lack an experience, that is also an experience, okay? And the interesting thing is that this is all very positive. We have a process of prosperity, okay? Or prosperity through process, through an action of something, okay? This has to do primarily with collaboration. So a lot of this is very interesting. On a deeper level, there's something about them that is not very balanced when it comes to the deeper knowing, the deeper understanding of all of this. There's something almost, it's faux. The card is faux, which is artificial or something that is not real. It's not that it's not inauthentic. There can be authenticity still in inauthentic things like art, for example. It's the form of expression. It's a form of expression that even sometimes in its simulation it becomes more real than the real thing, something like that. And with this, with the 2 of Swords in reverse, this person is focused on cutting out something. They don't know what to cut out, but they are trying to find balance by doing so to reach the Ace or to reach the 3 of Swords. So there's a lot that has to do with a wish-washy sort of need to find mental clarity, okay? Because it's on the soul level, I don't really like this position because deep down inside there's a psychological thing that has to do with abandonment, has to do with instability, has to do with not balancing out the mind, okay? At the same time, the Ace is on the horizon. There's something about this that has to do with it's like traveling. It's like also the mind moving from place to place, not being stable, not being steady, not being still. Okay, that's on their end. on your end, there's the Ace of Rods in the reverse, okay, which is an interesting thing because what all this indicates is essentially some form of closing, and then also reanimation of all of that has closed. Okay, it's like a rebirth cycle that I'm seeing between both of you on a grander level, because we have the 9 here, the 4, the 5 of Rods in the reverse, plus this one, which is the Ace of Rods in the reverse. So I think it's up to you whether or not to let go of this burden or not. You have essentially command over this connection. The thing is that even if you let it go, there still would be some sort of desire to keep the union, desire to keep the sort of harmony between both parties. Okay, what is essentially coming out to be here is the 8 plus the Ace of Rods, which is the 9 of Rods in the reverse, okay, which is what they are consciously embodying. There's something here about the ability to put the nail in the coffin, in the right coffin, or in 2 coffins. And because of all this, there's a dispute, and there's a dispute on the energetic level of this connection. Okay, something that has to do with the solar plexus not being totally there, not being totally rooted in some sort of foundation, and then producing the energy that is required to come up with, instinct. And there goes that theme again of a basic instinct. Now, this has to do with essentially whether the desires that are within this connection are actually legitimated by something that would be reasonably realistic when it comes to commitments, when it comes to the desires that are enabled or that are set on fire through the heart center of all of this. The question is to find out if you're passionate about it, if there is something beyond just mere connection, or if there's something that is more harmonious in terms of the general way things are going, in terms of realities or in terms of timelines of the collective conscious, of the human experience. What is going on? Because of this, there's something that has to do with essentially coming up with a realm of experience that has not yet been experienced that you are trying to bring in through this connection, okay? And it's all very much possible, but the fool's journey has to come from a place of fearlessness. And because Mars is in affliction within this reading, there is difficulty in coming up with an action, even though there is a calling to do such, okay, from Libra side to the significant others. And it's difficult because if there is fear there, it's fear because also Libra has become elevated in such a way to speak about a process that is yet to be sort of discovered, that has to do with the path that is trying to be found, or the foundation that is trying to be found when it comes to right doing within this. Okay? I like this reading. It's a bit complicated. I think you hold the keys, though. There's a lot that they have to do, but then if they're operating in a place of fear that it will collapse regardless of what they do, it's not very helpful. The idea here is to embody this card, which is the High Priestess energy. This is my favorite card of the deck. The High Priestess, she knows. She is not reaching out. She's completely naked, yet invisible. She's interdimensional. And she doesn't have to walk the path. So, the idea here is to understand there is a way to avoid challenges, excuse me, by observing, by mere observation, and also through this act of observation, through the act of non-doing, not taking any sort of path, to observe, and then also to be very mindful of oneself, as well as your own motivations, your own sort of behaviorisms within this type of connection. There's an ability to see the path as it is, the path of right doing. The idea here is not to take that path either, to see it for what it is from a distance, and to observe it. And as you observe it, you can actually become this path. It's a very strange thing wherein those who are creating a path. Okay, and I talked very recently to my guru, one of the head nuns at an ashram. We come up with this. We were building a pathway, and we've been doing this for about 2 years now. The pathway is almost finished. It's called Ganesha pathway, and Ganesha is the remover of all obstacles. At the same time, those who are in a place of leadership, okay, and if you are Libra listening to me on this channel, you are a leader in terms of the path of ascension, and you're going to encounter these people who operate in a very Martian way, very foreign, very exotic, where their motivations are not really understood. It's more of a rajasic quality where they have to do something, they have to make some sort of action happen. But the path that we build, okay, the path that we build on in a physical way and also metaphorical way, we become that path for others to tread on, okay? It's a matter of influence that we see in social media today, in terms of memetics, meme theory of our thoughts and our patterns in terms of our behaviorisms as a human race. And the leaders actually become the path. There's a selfless sacrificial quality, sacrifice, with the Queen of Pentacles coming into this again. Because the lesser ruler of Venus, Taurus, is actually in detriment right now. There's a lot of difficulty with it being afflicted by Uranus in retrograde as well. North Node being there, I believe it's North Node, in conjunction with that. There's a lot that has to do with serious delirium when it comes to the stability of anything, of any sort of reality. And the idea here is to let the path unfold itself, to avoid any sort of calamity, to avoid any sort of mountain that would be on the horizon. The path naturally veers off to the side. And the path is also indicative of those who have fallen as leaders and builders of the path for others to tread on, but also indicative of the desires of the North and South Node, the maneuvering of snake or serpentine energy that comes through the form of Shakti, that comes through the form of willpower. And it maneuvers in such a way that no path is ever linear, okay? It's also, it's not just one path, okay? And there's a sort of like phasing that goes on with the creation of the path in terms of vision, in terms of what you're manifesting, and how things build around that path, okay? How things are built within that path and around that path. Usually the roads that have been built in modern times, for example, since the Romans, and probably before that, the roads lead to somewhere. There's some sort of civilian or civility around a city. There's a city or structures around that eventually burgeon up and they become resonant hubs for those who are on the path. And this is the idea here, essentially to embrace Neptune, to embrace the High Priestess energy, to not say much, to not do much, but then also to attract essentially the walkers to observe, and then you can observe them in a very quiet sort of way, okay? The idea here is also to sort of get over the mass psychosis of fear that we've been feeling since the last 2 years, and get over that. And there's a way for Libra to embody judgment and to harness Venus's energy with union to bring forward inspiration of some sort. Hit the hidden flame, the sacred fire. Okay, this is the best I can do. Hopefully that has helped for some of you Librans. I do wish you well. This is a very long reading, and yeah, I'm in the middle of a move, so please wish me well as well. Trying to get my visa underway and go abroad. So wishing you well. Thank you. Bye-bye.